Hi, this is Jason Campbell, former NFL quarterback, 10-year veteran, 2004 Auburn SEC Player of the Year, also early investor, Zen Water, and Turo. You can also catch me out on Believe in Auburn, Everything Auburn podcast, and the Fifth Quarter podcast. You are on the game plan.
All right, awesome. Well, Jason Campbell, thank you so much for joining us on the game plan today.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. I know last week we tried to get this thing done, but unfortunately the weather came up north for you guys, and we got rain. Y'all got a lot of snow, so I take the rain.
Here we are. We are still shoveling some of that snow, but let's dig into a little bit of your background. You had this 10-year NFL career on quite a few different teams. At what point during that NFL career did you start thinking about what was going to come next for you?
I'll be honest with you, when I first got drafted by Washington, I had Mark Brunell, who was my kind of like a mentor to me. He had been in the league at that time, like 12 years. And, he kind of took me on his wings a little bit and started talking about the business outside of football. He said, look, I want you to focus on the football field because that's where, you're going to make most of your living. He said, but I also want you to make business contacts while you're in the NFL. And cause you never know when it's going to be over. And, I always had a dream and a goal of playing 10 years. And that's what I did. I had an opportunity to play more, but with the knee injury, just kind of moving around towards the end a little bit. I wanted to just stay focused on things that I desired more at that time. And I kind of lost the love of football after about 10 years during that transition. So for me, all the contacts that I made are now are the same people I'm talking to now, and everything. So you don't wait till you finish to start trying to make business adventures. You actually start in the middle of your career. And you don't do a lot of it during the season. During the season, you're focused on the season, but in the off season, you got about 5 or 6 months to make contacts, go out and meet people, greet people, give people some time. That's the most important thing you can give anyone is time. And I think, when you do that, you show people that, you're engaged with what they're doing and you're not stuck up. There's a lot of guys, they don't want to talk to people until they really need them. And I say, that's backwards. You talk to people, you get to know people and let them get to know your personality. You go from there.
Yeah. And as you were, I guess, going through some of that transition, we hear from a lot of athletes that many of them struggle without these pillars of team, routine, and competition that the NFL really provides, or even that since they've been playing since such a young age, they've had
Right.
for most of their life.
Right.
When you found yourself in that period of transition, how did you find those pillars for yourself?
I'm gonna tell you what, the first year is tough because during your first year of retirement out of the football league, you're so used to having a schedule that kind of grinds you all the way through the whole year. I always tell people there's really no off season, but when you're not playing games, you find time to figure out what you need to do during that idle time. And for me, you got to make it important. And so that first year, man, you miss a competitive environment. Part of you second guess yourself. You'd be like, dang, I made the right decision by turning down these teams. But when it comes to the end of the day, after that first year goes by, you're almost like you're starting life all over. You're trying to find yourself again. You're trying to find that niche. Like, how do I get going? Because it's unfamiliar territory to you. You're used to what and now you're in a world where none of that's irrelevant. No one's knocking down your door, trying to get autographs all the time, or trying to, invite you to these events all the time because, you're a has-been now. But I still get a chance to live a lot of that life because of the connections I said I made before and everything. But you also got to save your money, man. I always tell these guys, like, I had a rule, it was save 70% every year, live off 30%. And because when you're done, that's what you live off of. And then if you want to make business investments and, meet the right people, you can do that and continue to try to grow your income that way. So, I've been fortunate to run into the right type of people during my post career. But like I said, they wouldn't want anything to do with me if I didn't handle myself in a professional way during my career. Your attitude, your mindset. No one wants to deal with knuckleheads. It's just everybody has too much to lose. Even yourself. So you got to find people that are like-minded, people that are trying to grow, and I think that's how I approached after my first year of sitting out.
Yeah, and you mentioned having multiple offers on the table, which isn't usually the case for when somebody walks away from the game. You also mentioned kind of falling out of love with the game. What was that like emotionally for you, and what did you go through to ultimately decide to move on from the game of football?
Yeah, that's a great question. I tell you, when I was playing for the Oakland Raiders, they was kind of, having a rough go before I got there. And I remember they traded for Richard Seymour, and then they traded for myself. And then once we got out there, our whole goal was to get this franchise going back in the right way. And my first year we would go 8-8. I go 8-4 as a starter. I missed 4 games. My second year we start off 5-2. I break my collarbone, and then I wake up, in the hospital a day later, and after my surgery, and I come to find out they had made a trade. And I was just like, wow, I was having contract negotiations and everything. And then all of a sudden they end up, giving my contract away and signing someone else after the Raiders have been winning. We were 7-0 in the division at that time during my 2-year span at that time. I got hurt, and I was just like, man, you put your heart and everything into this to help a franchise get turned around. And as soon as you can't do anything for them, for a short period of time, they let you go. I mean, they turn it back on you, and that kind of hurt me a little bit. And that was during my, 7th year in the league. So I was in the prime of my career. So that stung a lot. And I ended up signing an off season as a backup with Chicago Bears, which I wasn't ready to be a backup because, I was playing at a high level. I was top 10 in every category. In the prime of your career, you don't want to sit behind anyone. And to have to take a backup role because of an injury, and because not that many 32, it's only 32 jobs in the NFL that are available. And the fact that they was all pretty much sold up at that time, it stung me a little bit. And then I kind of went to Cleveland and Cincinnati. I think that's when I started to kind of lose the love, was being in Cleveland during that span, all the losing, and just seeing a different aspect of it. It wasn't what I wanted to be a part of, and everything. So I ended up, calling a career after one last year in Cincinnati. And it still hurts to this day, to the point that I didn't get a chance to finish my career in my prime, getting to know like what could have been. But at the same time, I know things happen for a reason, and you move on.
Yeah, that's got to be challenging, especially with all of the incredible success you experienced in college as well. And obviously in high school, which is true for almost any NFL guy, you experience success at that level too. And so it's just different when it becomes a business. Let's double click a little bit more on the off the field stuff. So you mentioned that 70-30 split. That's easier in theory than probably in practice.
Yeah. Right.
Is that something that somebody, you mentioned Mark Brunell, imparted on you, or maybe growing up, that was kind of drilled in your mind about taking care of your money, or was it just something you kind of found on your own?
Well, I grew up in a modest, my parents, I was fortunate to grow up with both of my parents in the household. My dad was a principal, so you can only imagine how he stayed on me, and he was my coach. So, I was always kind of screwed in the right direction. I think the other thing is seeing like where you come from and then seeing where you're at today. Sometimes it makes you feel like you take care of things a lot more because you realize how hard it was to get to where you're at. I come from one of the smallest places in the U.S., Taylorsville, Mississippi. Y'all probably even know where that's at. It's one of the smallest towns, one red light, it's type town. So, that made me kind of be grounded. And when I got to the NFL and I was able to make good money, the one thing I wanted to do was, I took care of my parents first and foremost for what they've done for me in my life and helping me, help my brother and sister. But the most thing, man, was just realizing like as fast as you got it, it can all be taken away in a heartbeat. And I think I learned from other people's mistakes. I watched a lot of guys in the locker room just, blow money left and right. And, wasn't looking forward to a serious injury coming, and all of a sudden it happens. And then, during the season that we were locked out in 2011 during the summer, I saw guys that were making $8 million a year having to take out loans. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I like, some people don't make $8 million in 40 years of work. I was just like, you were making in 1 year, you have to take out a loan. So to me, that just showed me at that standpoint, like, man, like no matter what you do, like as hard as it is to make it, you got to try even harder to keep it. And what I mean by that, you got to have money in order for yourself to grow. But at the same time, 50% comes out of it, goes to Uncle Sam right off the top. We was getting hit at 48% in the pros. And if you lived in California, you was over that 50% threshold. So, out of that, what was left, you live off that 30% that was left out of that. And then the 70%, that's where I take my 100% comes after all of that is taken out, taxes and everything. And then I look at like, okay, how do I break this up to 100%, breaking it 70-30. So that was my rule, man. That was my goal. And I'm thankful that I did because, during times like today, It's not everything. Not everybody just having. It's 25 million people out of work, and everything. So to be able to help my family support them, it means a lot.
No, it's so true, and one of the things I think we hear different things from different athletes about is this narrative of the broke athlete. And
Mhm.
on one hand, like we had Eric Winston on, NFLPA
Oh, yeah.
president, he hates it. He's like, look, this is a thing that sets guys back. Meanwhile,
Mhm.
you hear from other players where they say, you know what, growing up, coming up in the league, I heard that narrative and I said, I don't want to be a part of it. I'm going to fight against it. And they do a lot better with their
Mhm.
finances and how they manage themselves off the field. In your mind, has that narrative of the broke athlete, of these, players suffering financial hardship, has that helped or hurt the perception of the player now in your post NFL career?
No, I think it makes you more aware. I think guys have seen the show. Guys that they talk about. Athletes that went broken. Back when I was playing, they used to have seminars where they said 70% of NFL players within 5 years are broke, and a lot of it comes from divorce. A lot of it comes from bad investments or gambling problems, or you got 5 baby mamas. It all comes from different ways, and I think now with all the technology and all the research and the networks, I think guys now get the chance to see it more. Let's be honest, guys make a lot more money nowadays than I did when I was playing. And we made a lot more than the guys before us that was playing. So, you have a little bit more wiggle room. And I think, but if you can utilize that and understand that, not everyone around you is supposed to live the same level that you're living, from that aspect of understanding, like, okay, because you have $1 million house, it doesn't mean you go buy $3-4 million houses for everybody. It just you want to take care of your people, you want to care for them, but you have to put yourself in a position where you can take care of them even when you're done playing, because you have already set a limit and a standard. And what you've done for them in the past, you can maintain it because you didn't go over and beyond. Once you go over and beyond and then you start trying to peel back, it's always harder. And I think that's the problem that guys run into. You overdo it in the beginning, and then you're trying to maintain that. And then once you're done, you're trying to play catch up. So instead of playing catch up, I always tell guys, they always talk about making it rain and stuff like that. I said, man, forget making it rain when you're playing ball and stuff and you're trying to do everything you can. How about make it gain? And that's my thing. Like, use it as an opportunity to start gaining in your life and start setting yourself up for generations, and infect your community and your family about how you handle your business and how you do things. And if you want to be a really help with somebody, start a business or create something and give jobs to people in your family. That's why I commend LeBron about. Of course, he's made a lot more money than a lot of athletes, so he can do a lot of different things, but he's put them in position for them to go out and be success. And that's what they did. They went to college, they got the degrees. They wasn't looking for the handout. And from there, they took off, man. They built a company together. Now they're an empire. So, I think that's the best way you can do it, because once you give people just money, man, that money goes as fast as you gave it to them. And you didn't do anything to help them, because the only thing they do is burn right through it and they come right back to you again. So you got to stop that magnet and create other ways by creating jobs.
Yeah, you mentioned the buying a house piece. It's not just buying the house; it's the
Oh,
taxes with that house. It's filling all the
Mhm.
rooms in that house. It's having the car in front of the driveway. When I'd worked for an NFL team, there was $100 million plus contract guy towards the end of his career, which listeners could easily figure out. But he had brand new Maserati with the tags on, a brand new Rolls Royce, brand new Bentley, all with the tags on, and that's a pretty good way to blow through money, because the second
Right.
you drive that thing off the lot, it's worth about half as much as what you paid for it.
No, you're exactly right. That's the other thing. Like, buying cars. Like, we all like cars. You want to drive something nice, but like you say, once you buy it or drive it off the lot, it depreciates. But what can help you get a nice car is that get one car. And then if you got a wife or something, then get another one for her. But then wait a couple of years to its warranty is almost up, and then trade it in or something. But once you go buy 4 or 5 cars all at one time, people forget you got to pay insurance on these things. And it's just like houses. Houses, there's taxes, there's insurance, there's, things that come up that got to be fixed. And so, those are all the things that go into. People think once you pay for something, oh, that's it. No, the upkeep costs just as much as what you're paying for it. So, I'm always trying to mentor young guys, man, like the guys that want to listen. Some of them, they'll listen to you a little bit, but tune you out. But, some of them do want to learn. And I think, the NFL is doing a better job now of making guys more aware of understanding, because the NFL, man, it's not for long. And like I said, but you have a head start that a lot of people in life don't get that chance. Some guys come out of college, 22, 23-year-olds, and we're instant millionaires. Some guys, they have to work to their 50, 60 before they become a millionaire. So you already got that threshold where you're ahead, but how do you stay ahead and sort of and build off of that? That's the thing. And I always say this: you need to have a great surrounding. Your friends, like, they need to be friends of people that help you grow. Like, I don't want a whole bunch of yes guys around me, because those are the guys that, they just there. I call them professional leeches. They just there hanging on because they know they can get something out of you. I want guys around me that's going to say, "No, Jay, I don't think you need to do that," or "No, that's not you," like looking out for my best interests. And that way they want to see me grow and I want to see them grow, so you got to surround yourself with the right type of folks.
No, that's right. And beyond just the savings aspect, one of the things that you've gotten really excited about and spending a lot of your time in now is on the investing side. So help us understand, what sparked that passion about early stage investing, and then how did you educate yourself on these deals, or I guess where did you turn for guidance?
Man, I tell you what, it took me a while before I actually just started to like bite into it. People would come to me with so many deals and opportunities, but I'm just like, man, you're still a stranger to me. I need to get to know you. I need to get to know, like, how this all came about. And there were sometimes it may took me a year or two before I even started to, really get into it. I would say, hey, let me come sit in some meetings. Let me kind of, see what y'all do. Let me see, like, how do these things grow? Because not every deal that comes to you is going to be a blockbuster. Some of them are just small deals. You put a little bit in, you're gonna get a little bit more than half what you put in back. Like, as long as you're still staying ahead. But then some of them, they do take off. And for me, I met a couple of guys, here in Atlanta. Albert Sal's one of the guys that I know, just kind of like connected me with a couple of his buddies and stuff that are in the market world. Then my financial advisor, I go sit in board meetings with them sometimes and, let them talk me through stuff and not just be on the phone and just say, hey, what's this? Like, no, I wanted to learn. And so I know what I'm getting myself into. And so I made a couple of investments. I got involved with, Zen Water and Tiro and, and things like that. So, all because of connections. And I was able to get in on some of the early side. So, you don't have to put so much in when you get in early. You come in on the back end, it's a lot more you got to put in. So, you learn those things as well in a way. And you also got to say, I always say this: anytime you invest in something, you got to be willing to lose that too. And I always say, if you're afraid if you're going to lose it and it's going to affect your lifestyle, then don't do it. But if you think that you can do it, look at it as you're giving it away until you get something back. And that's how I do my investments.
So you mentioned Turo, which is a car sharing marketplace. Let's dig in on how that came about for you and what you liked about that investment opportunity specifically.
Well, everyone was talking about the whole Uber thing, and then, Turo guys like to drive nice cars, and they go out of town and go to different places. And, it kind of came off the thing of like thinking about Airbnb. Airbnb became huge and popular. Turo's the other thing. You see people riding around town in nice high-end cars, and, say you drive a nice Range Rover yourself. If you was to come to Atlanta, I'm pretty sure you want to keep the same car so you can go, rent that car for a day or two. And so, a guy by the name of Sean, I was able to jump in it with him. He does a lot of different investment with guys. Like I said, that came through Al connection. And like I said, so just him talking to me about it and walking me through it and what it looked like and everything. That's how I went about the whole Turo thing and everything. So, because I missed the Uber one. I had a chance to get in Uber early. I thought long and hard about it. And I didn't do it. At that time, I was still playing ball, and I was kind of like, you hear about these stories, and then you kind of shy about it. But I didn't know much about it because I didn't have the time to educate myself on it, so I stayed away from it. So you miss some sometimes. That happens. That's part of investing.
Wow. So was this when you were in Oakland that Uber opportunity came about, or was it unrelated to the geography?
No, it was unrelated to geography, but I had a connect where I could have got in for, a couple 100,000, and who knows, now would be worth a few million. and you sit back sometimes, you're like, oh gosh, I missed that one. But it happens, so you just try to find the next one.
Yeah, Jason, no worries. This is a safe space on this podcast. Anybody who listens knows that I talk about a lot of my misses all the time.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's without those opportunities, what good would our deals be anyway, right? You're only as good as the
Right.
deals you get to look at. And so
Right.
unfortunate reality of that is sometimes you got to take those misses and deal with those, but you just got to use that to inform the next kind of investments that you're making.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like it's just like anything else. You always hear Michael Jordan and guys always talk about. People always remember the great shots that they made, but they don't remember all the misses. So it's the same way in investing. You're gonna miss a lot, but when you do make on a few, you do really really well, and you can make up for a few of those losses. So it's the same thing. But one thing I tell people about investing, though, for honestly, like don't look at it as a get rich quick scheme. It's very unlikely that you put in something and it just blows the top off of it. There's a few people that's happened to, they got fortunate, but 90% of the time it doesn't happen that way. Most of the time investments are, they're time driven. It takes a little time for them to get going and, and everything else. So, don't look at it as I had a few buddies that tried to buy a few things, few stocks, and they thought they'd get a return back in a week. I said, no, man. I said, it's a long haul deal. You can't go look at the stock market every day and think like, oh man, it's up, it's down. I was just like, you drive yourself crazy. I said, it's a long way. I was like, you just for the long haul, not the short term.
Yeah, that's right. My mentor in venture capital, he always told me, is like, Jay, VC is a get rich slow scheme. So just be ready for that. And it is when you invest in a seed fund. Especially, when you're raising a seed fund and you go through that process, you have to educate people that, hey, this is an 8 to 10 year commitment.
Right.
And I think for people that aren't used to it and they see the headlines every day and they see the unicorns every day, even when a company becomes a unicorn, that doesn't mean you're getting your money back that day, right? They still have to go an IPO. They still have to go an exit. And as we see, a lot of stuff can happen along the way. Looking at some of the investments that you've made, Jason, it's a couple different categories. You mentioned Zen Water, so that's the beverage space. Turo, that's car sharing. Are there certain categories or industries that get you excited? And what do you look for when you're looking at those categories for investment?
I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to getting into like real estate. Real estate is a prime investment. I missed a couple opportunities back I grew up in Mississippi, and I had a chance to buy some land about 4 or 5 years ago. At the time, I didn't do it. I was thinking about, what if someone didn't want to buy this land back from me or build on it? And, I missed a perfect opportunity because a Toyota plant came and built, a dealership there. And, but at the time, I don't consider those losses. You're just being cautious. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I say, man, no more land is getting built, and that's one thing I look at. I like, what a great opportunity if you can go find some land in the right area. Now, you can't go off and just say, I'm going to get some land. Just, you got to make sure, like, you do your research, see what's coming to these areas, see what's growing. And so I would say, man, I want to get into that. I want to get into like flipping smaller homes, doing things like that, building homes. I'm really into like that market where I'm always researching. I'm watching, real estate shows all the time, HGTV and all of that stuff. So yeah, you just kind of studying it. You can't just go dive right in there. So I've been kind of studying that now for a little bit. And then the other thing is, everyone knows Court Dreams, ran by Jay Lilly. Me and Jay Lilly are close friends. Jay Lilly and myself, he wanted me to go into Court Dreams. I told him, I said, I really don't do business with friends because it can kind of get so after about 1.5 years, he came back to me and said, hey man, I got a great opportunity for you. You're a golfer, you like the golf. How about we do turf dreams? And I said, okay, now you're talking my language, let me speak a little bit. Not that I would shoot basketball because I shoot his eyes out, but it's just at this point in my career, I play a little bit more golf than basketball. So I was like, okay, so where is this going? Because, Court Dreams really taking off. And so what we end up doing, we end up meeting with a third party, STI, Synthetic Turf International, here in the Atlanta area. So we partner with them. So, Jay is doing the basketball courts. So I'm helping with the turf side of things. So people building basketball courts and putting turf putting greens in their backyard. So, we've been doing that now. So that's kind of taken off for us, and, looking forward to it, man. I actually enjoy it. So that's another one of my investment that I've started here lately.
I love that. And for listeners who don't know, Court Dream's a great Instagram follow as well, because they're always posting the installations they do, like the court at Ludacris's house and others. Do you have one of these courts set up at your place?
Yeah, I have one. If you go on Court Dreams 1, you'll see mine is like the lime green and blue, but got 8 on it and 17. But you can also go see it on my Instagram, Jay Campbell 17. So, pretty much I post some of my stuff on there as well. But yeah, the court is really good, man. I enjoy it. Like I said, I can't really hoop now no more, but I used to be All-American in basketball, but a couple of new knee injuries in pros. But I can beat you in a game of horse. And like I said, I just want to take you over to the putting green and beat you in a couple putting contests.
Tim was D3, so I don't know. If you want to take that heat.
Yeah, Jason was All-American and had knee issues. I was Division III and had knee issues, so I think I'd still take Jason.
See, I missed the McDonald's All-American game by five, I guess, roster spots, as they call it. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Because of me playing football and basketball, I wasn't an all 1 year sport guy like a lot of basketball players were. So my season started late, but so I ended up, finishing like 27th or 28th that year or something like that in the basketball things. Had scholarships from all over, but football was my way to go.
So on the real estate piece, you were part of this prolific 2004 Auburn team, and you've gotten more plugged in with Auburn. You have a podcast, Everything Auburn. Have you leveraged that network of alums and boosters and whatnot at all as it relates to your investment approach? We've had other guests on this show. Pat Connington was a guy who played both baseball and basketball at Notre Dame, and now he plays for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's been great for him, is to plug back in with the Notre Dame community. Yeah. Has that been a source for you at all? It can also be challenging, I'm sure.
No, I'm always trying to plug back into Auburn. Like I said, our podcast is Believe in Everything Auburn. I do it with Taylor Beth Davis. She graduated from Auburn. She works with ESPN, and she also worked with the Carolina Panthers. So, we've been doing it now for 2 years. We get a lot of coaches come on. We get a lot of former players come on. And, it's a really good show. And I try to plug it back into Auburn because, it's not just football related. We try to cover all the sports and based on the season that we're in. And then for me, I also try to piggyback off of my podcast and do my own as well with Al. So we have one coming up soon called The Fifth Quarter. It's going to be a podcast where we talk about athletes getting into business deals and different things once they finish playing ball.
There you go.
So that'll be starting.
I like that theme.
Yeah. So that'll be starting in January. So that'll be more myself and Al with that. But the whole Auburn podcast thing, we tie that back into the Auburn family, the boosters and everything. Believe puts it on. So, the more people that subscribe and listen to us, it's free subscription. And, the more people subscribe, the more sponsorship we get. And I kind of go in a little bit more on my podcast than I do. I work for Auburn Sports Radio network team too. But on my podcast, I kind of go a little bit more in detail about certain topics that's going on within the program. So, everyone should definitely check it out.
That's awesome. Have you enjoyed learning on the media side and kind of flexing that muscle a bit?
Oh, yeah, I enjoy it, man. For those who don't know, I also work with NBC Washington. So I cover the Washington football team on the Sundays. We do most of the pregame, postgame. So I did that about 10 times this year during the season. If they make the playoffs, I'll probably be back on. I kind of took this week and the last week off of the season because of my birthday weekend. But I enjoy it though. So I've been doing NBC Washington now. This is my first year with that. So the radio and the TV business has really, really taken off for me. Podcast has taken off for me. And, I can't be, more grateful in that aspect. And, I had other opportunities, but some of them require flying a long ways. I don't really know about that. But, I enjoy it though, man. I have a lot of fun. I think this year, 2020, it taught us a lot about, different ways to connect. This whole virtual Zoom, I think in the beginning people was kind of like nervous, but now I think people have kind of adjusted to it and realized like, man, you ain't got to fight traffic to go into work all the time. You still can get things done and still can communicate. So I think people communication skills went up this year. So, we'll see how this translates when things kind of get back to normal.
I've always wanted to ask, whenever I see a former player doing a show like you do on NBC or even doing your podcast, when you're a current player, you have the media that's always nitpicking everything you're doing. Why did he make that read? Why did he throw it there? And then you get on the other side of it. How does it impact the way you talk about the players having been a former player. Can you
Yeah. It's totally different. It's totally different because, they always ask me the questions about the quarterbacks. Like, it's funny to see the text messages sometimes that we talk about before we go on the air. And some of the guys be like, man, what is he doing? Like, he's trying to be a hero. And I was like, guys, he's not trying to be a hero. He's just trying to make a play. Like, he got outside the pocket. He thought he could get the ball to a certain guy. And, the guy made a play on the ball. And, he just threw it too hard and, got tipped in the air. Ball don't find the ground, and I just try to, tell them a little insight that you see from a player standpoint, you're at field level more so that you're sitting on the couch or you're sitting up in the booth. It's a totally different aspect, and so I try to go a little bit more in detail from the player side, and you can see, like, being in this business, like, yeah, if you haven't been on that field, sometimes you can, say a little few things that someone that's been in the field may look at you like, bro, like, nah, I'm gonna be a stepbrother on this one. Like, no, we're gonna disagree to agree, but I'm gonna give you my opinion first. And but I enjoy it though, man. I enjoy it because it when you know the game, it feels a lot better. You respect the game, especially when you're out of it, you realize, like, dang, that's some hard stuff to go through the NFL and have to play through all that scrutiny. When you're in it, you don't really think that way. This is your job. This is what you do on a day-to-day basis. But when you're out of it, like, you have a lot of respect for the guys, like watching them go through the brutal hits and the weight of the whole NFL and the seasons, how long the seasons are. And for any professional athlete or anybody in professional business, that's just like me trying to come into the radio business or podcast business. Y'all been doing it longer than me, so I would be crazy not to listen to you guys, so if so it's kind of the same way when I'm talking about the quarterback situation. They get all in tune with what I'm saying because they're like, okay, this guy played the position. So it's just like when I talk to you, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna listen to what y'all have to say because if Tim and Jay know what they've been talking about, they've been doing this, I'm gonna listen, because this is your territory. So, I think it's been outstanding.
No, I appreciate that. I think that's also relevant when you think about, as an athlete, starting your own podcast about, as you're working with Albert now on the Fifth Quarter podcast coming in January. You guys are talking about athletes doing deals and thinking about their next steps. You bring an authenticity to it. And we're seeing that a lot with a lot of athletes that are now starting their own media companies, whether it's in podcasting, whether it's in radio, whether they're doing video. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, why you think it's become such a popular thing for, current and retired players to now get into having their own media brands.
Oh, yeah. I think it's because it's familiar territory. It's something that they can touch. They can relate to it. They've been in it for pretty much half their lives. You're staying in a locker room, a whole bunch of media people around you asking you a ton of questions, and then you're learning and you're grooming all at the same time because you're learning how to talk to different people. And, sometimes it comes out the bad loss and you may not feel like talking, but this is your job. You're required to stand up and do what you got to do as a professional and talk. You come off a big win, you're on the high, how do you handle it? You have to control and say things that, may not go a certain way. So, it just, you learn so much in the heat of the battle. And I think being in that media and that, guys starting their own podcast, they get to talk about things that they enjoy, that they can relate to. And I think it's a great thing. I think it's an awesome thing. I like for everyone to get a chance to see and hear, what guys kind of do think. Like, during their playing career, they may not give you that much. But if a guy's in his podcast and he's done playing, you might want to check in and hear some of his stories because they could be intriguing because now he's going to keep it 100. He's going to keep it real with you, and probably let you know some things. So, it's definitely, if you have favorite players or guys you like to follow, I say, hey, go follow their podcasts because they probably say some things, or at least, if I'm a young athlete, I want to listen to what some of the older guys are saying, because someone already traveled the road before you. I say you'd be wrong not to pay attention or listen.
Well, Jason, we appreciate you keeping it real with us, and you've been so generous with your time. So we'll just wrap up with one question here. What are you most excited about looking forward?
Man, I'm most excited about seeing if Auburn can get a football coach. We in this unfamiliar territory right now, so we'll see how that works out. But no, I'm excited about new adventures coming. I think on the radio side of things and TV side of things, we'll see. The best thing about it, you have options. You can kind of pick and choose some of the things that you want to do and not want to do based off time related. So, I'm just looking forward to growing more and more in the investment side of things and not trying to overdo it, but just keep a balance. And I think that's the most important thing, not to overextend yourself, but learn how to keep a balance so that it stays fun to you and it doesn't feel like it's a job, but it's something you enjoy doing.
I love that. And I thought you were about to announce that you were going to be the next head coach of Auburn. That would have been a nice
if they want to pay me that, they want to pay me that money. They gave Gus $21 million to walk
just to go away.
Jeez, hot dog. I go for a year, then just tell me I'm out.
No.
And you save 70% of it, right? As always.
Right, exactly. I saved 70% of it. I started setting up some college funds and some grandkids funds or something. So, but no, it's all fun. We'll see what happens with Auburn. Hopefully they get it right. But for us, the business world and my world, hey man, I'm just living one day at a time, taking it as it comes.
Well, thanks, Jason. Have a happy birthday, and we'll make sure all of our listeners check out the Fifth Quarter podcast that you're launching next month.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all for having me on.